dreadlocks as an artist is not as distracting as it would be if he were trying to come into my office. This summer, he actually got a job in a graphic design firm, and they could have cared less about his dreadlocks. So I think one of the things young people need to understand is what environment are you going to be working in. If you're going to be working in an artsy environment, there's a little more tolerance for creative expression and how one presents oneself. If you're going for the corporate job, then I always say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So if you think that that's the path you want to go on, invest in a nice suit. You don't have to spend a lot of money. I mean, my young sons don't have a whole lot of money to be spending on clothes, but they will invest in a good suit or a good pair of pants and a sport coat. For young ladies, a nice skirt, an appropriate length. You can do these things if that's what you think you want to do. The other thing that I would say is there is a place and time for everything. And a time and place for everything. And I think that young people have to realize that in the work world, we work. When we play, we play. Now, if you were to see me out and about, I probably would not be dressed like this. I'd probably have on a pair of jeans and a jacket and some boots or something like that, because I was going to be hanging out with my friends or I was going out with my children. But when I come to work, I have to do like this. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I saw Russell Simmons on Tyra Banks' show, and Tyra made the comment that Russell always said he would never wear a suit. And she asked the question, well, Russell, what do you tell young people now about wearing a suit? Is that a cop-out? And he said, no. If you need to wear a suit to get the job, wear the suit to get the job. What you do in your free time and how you express yourself after hours is up to you. But if you want to get a job in a corporate environment, when in Rome, you must do as the Romans do.
What kind of things, man, that you see like within corporate America that like really, you know, felt like weren't for you? Why did you feel like you had to leave that?
You know, it was really interesting because, you know, once I got in, you know, after I got out of college and got my first corporate job when I was 19, while I was basically working my way through school. I just started seeing a lot of the same, you know, manipulation that you see on the streets. You know, I had bosses that wanted me to work way too hard. You know, you'd be there at like 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. They're gone at 5. And then they're taking your ideas and they're pitching it to the higher ups, they're pitching it to the client, passing it off as theirs. And they're patting you on the head, giving you, you know, a handful of dollars a week, and they're telling you, you know, take one for the team. And you know, and I'm sitting there thinking, you know, that's just basically, you know, if you know, when you put on a shirt and tie, you know, it's like you're just a pimp. You know, they're taking your intellectual property, passing it off as theirs. And you know, they're pimping you. You know, the same way, you know, the dudes on the street were pimping the girls, you know, taking advantage of them mentally because they want that acceptance and they want that father figure or what have you, and they want that easy, you know, that easy money that, you know, and they're telling you it's just the two of y'all against the world. It's the same thing that they do that they do in the business world. And when you start realizing that, you know, it's a lot of the same games, it's just, you know, it's a lot more white people, and it's a lot more, you know, the game is just dressed up a little different, and the vernacular, the language is a little more proper. You know, once you're able to put 2 and 2 together, you can develop a strategy to succeed, and that's what, you know, that's a lot of what's in Knock the Hustle. So it gives Knock the Hustle is really a game plan for succeeding.
Okay. Now, why do you feel like, you know, this message is relevant to the hip hop audience in particular? Because is it relevant to the hip hop audience in particular?
You know, it's real. I'm finding that it's really relevant. It wasn't intended to be relevant to the hip hop audience. I wrote it just really in my own voice, just the way I talk, the way I came up. And when I started showing the book to other people and just sharing my stories, people were relating to it.
No doubt.
And when I went in bookstores and was sharing the book with just other people out there, there wasn't anything else like it.
No doubt.
And you know, but people across the board, you know, have really been feeling it, really starting to relate to it. And I'm just getting feedback really from, you know, just, you know, cats in the street, people in, you know, business schools. I mean, you know, people at Stanford and University out in Cali and just all these different schools. People are picking it up.
What are some of the ideas that they're most taking out of the book?
They're really relating to the things about office politics, because, I mean, what's funny is a lot of older people who have been in the corporate environment for in some cases 20 years. They're emailing me and saying that they've read it and they're going, wow, I wish I had this book when I was 25. Because they've gone through a lot of the pitfalls and a lot of the things they wish somebody had pointed out. And I've had a lot of college professors that have read the book and they've gone, this is a lot of stuff that they don't teach you in college and they wish that somebody had. Because a lot of it's just real talk, it's real experience. And I did something that a lot of college textbooks won't do and a lot of CEOs won't do, is that they just really break it down in simple terms, because unlike your boss, I'm not trying to rip you off. Right. I'm just trying to give it to you. I'm trying to make you not only a better employee, but I'm just trying to give you, it's just real talk that I'm trying to help you out, because I know it's not only going to make you a better employee, but it's going to make your life better.
When you look at a resume, what things immediately jump out at you and catch your attention? For people who may be at home preparing their resumes and, maybe worry, well, maybe I don't have the work experience that they're looking for. Maybe I don't have the right GPA. What things catch your attention most?
I think the thing that catches my attention most is it organized well? And people have different ways of organizing it. Most people in search like to have it organized from the most current job backwards, so in reverse chronological order, because then I can say, what are you doing now, what were you doing before then, and what before that. And then in terms of putting your thoughts together about the resume, maintain consistency throughout. So if you talk about one job where you had responsibilities for 4 or 5 things, talk about responsibilities in each job, so that the person reading the resume has some idea of what you've done in each of these jobs. Another resume type that I've seen recently is not a jobs resume per se, it's a skills resume, where people talk about the kinds of skills that they have. For example, when I first started working, my resume actually had on it the fact that I babysat.
Wow.
I wasn't just your average babysitter. I was babysitting for a family with 3 children, and I babysat them from 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. I was responsible for getting them off to camp, fixing their lunch, and starting dinner for the mom, keeping the house tidy. So what I did was I put things on there around organizational abilities, how I was able to manage small people and things like that. And I'm sure that's not what got me the job, but I'm sure people saw how that was organized and how they could see that someone who could take care of 3 children under 12 at the age of 17 was probably organized enough to handle the job that they had. So don't be apologetic about what you don't have on the resume or what you don't have in terms of skills. Be real positive about the things that you have accomplished and have achieved, and the interviewer will see that.
It seems to me, and this is just informally, that maybe within like the last 5-10 years, I don't know, there does seem to be like a different etiquette. Have you noticed that in terms of like the people that come into to apply for employment in the places where you're working at? Have you noticed a difference in like the caliber of employee between like when you started out 15, 16 years ago and like today, the last 2-3 years? And what do you think has brought that on? Besides BET and MTV, of course.
I think, pretty much the society at large. We live in a overly materialistic world. And people foolishly think that they're either going to win the lottery today or they're going to come up with some Google-type website that's going to put them over. They're just one conversation or one handshake away from being the next Bill Gates. And nobody is really getting down to the brass.
One blowjob away from being the next Paris Hilton.
Absolutely. And nobody's really getting down to the brass tacks like, when you and I were coming up, where you pretty much had to put in work and, do your time on the grind, to get to that next level. And I see very few young people, for whatever reason, not willing to do that.
You get a chance to see like the front lines of the labor market. What do you see? Do you see any kind of patterns changing, like in terms of like how the job market is going to be? Like, where do you see the job market being at, like in the next 5-10 years, in terms of like what kind of jobs are going to be available to people, and what kind of skills will people have to fill them?
See, that's where I really become disheartened with the attitudes of a lot of the young folks that are coming in to businesses that I have run. Whether you're talking about the fast feeders or retail markets,